Hello everyone, and in today's video we're going to be learning if-else statements in Python. Now before we get started, I would really appreciate if you could like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Now without further ado, let's get started. So if and else statements are conditional statements in Python. So conditional statements are kind of like a way of saying if this works, do this, or if it doesn't work, do this. So there are a few different conditional statements that we can use while using an if statement. So let's go ahead and learn the conditional statements first. And we want to compare if two values are equal to each other in Python. Well, we can do that using the double equal sign. So we can do this, we can do something like this. So what this checks, so we can just write this checks if two values are equal to each other. So notice right here how we have two equal signs rather than just one. If we were to just use one equal sign, that would kind of be like assigning variable a to the value b. It's like assigning a variable, which we don't want. We want to compare if two values are equal to each other. That's why we use the double equal sign. So the next conditional statement that we can use, or conditional checker that we can use, is to check if two values are not equal to each other. So not equal to each other, we could use something called if a, and then we put an exclamation mark equals to b. This checks if two values are equal to each other. So this exclamation point denotes whether to say that two values are not equal to each other. So this line would say, check if A is not equal to B. Now, just like in math, there are ways to check if a value is greater than or less than the other value. And so in Python, we do that just like how we write it in math. So we use A less than B. So this says that A is less than B. And vice versa, we could say A greater than B. And then there is another way to check if they're equal to each other. We can just go ahead and put an equal sign at the end of each of these. So this basically would say A is less than or equal to B. This would say A is greater than or equal to B. So just make sure you put the equal sign on the right side of the operator. Now let's go ahead and move on to an if statement and how to write them. So when we're writing an if statement, we have to use the keyword if. So if is a keyword that triggers the if statement in Python. So let's write a quick if statement. Let's say if we want to check if a value is greater than another value. So let's set a equal to, we'll set a as 23, and then we'll set b as maybe 100. So when we're writing an if statement, we write the keyword if, and then we write our conditional statement. So here we want to see if b is greater than the value a. Now when we're done writing our conditional statement, we must make sure to add a colon. So what this colon denotes is that we're writing a block of code for this if statement. So without the colon, this would cause an error in Python, which is denoted by these red squiggly lines, just like a spelling error. But in Python, it's a syntax error. So when we put these colons, Python automatically helps us by indenting our if statement block. Now, indentation is very important when it comes to Python and if statements because it helps Python understand your block of code. So we'll go ahead right here and write print b is greater than a. So let's go ahead and run this. What do we get? We see that in the console we get b is greater than a. Now let's change the values real quick and let's say this is 100 and then b becomes 23. What do you think the output of this is going to be? Well, if you see, we have no output here because what this Python is doing is saying, okay, we got the value of A is 100. We got the value of B is 23. Now let's go on to the next block of code, which is the if statement. So right here, we're checking if B is greater than A. So automatically, when we go through this if statement, we can see that B is not greater than A. So this condition does not evaluate to true. So Python completely skips over this block of the if statement, which is why we don't get anything printed in the console. Now, what if we want Python to print something else? So what if we want Python to say, okay, well, check also if A is greater than B and print A is greater than B. Well, there's another keyword in Python called the elif keyword. And it's kind of like saying if the previous condition was not true, then try this one. So elif stands for else if. So let's say else or elif, and we'll say if A is greater than B, then we'll go ahead and print A is greater than B. So let's see what we get from this one. When we run this, we can see that A is greater than B, which is what is run right here. So Python skips over this because this is evaluating to false, but this is evaluating to true. So we'll go ahead and print this one out. So let's go on to another keyword, which is the else. So the else keyword catches anything which isn't directly caught by the if statement and the elif statement that we've in the preceding conditions that we've initialized. So let's go ahead and say else. And so else we can't really have a condition because we're saying else try, if none of these conditions worked previously, then you should print this. We can't have a condition for else. You just write the keyword else and then colons. And we go ahead and click enter. So in our condition, we can see that A, in this first condition, it's saying that B is greater than A. The second elif condition is saying that A is greater than B. So what is the only condition that is left? Well, if B is greater than A is false. If A is greater than B is false, well then we're only left with printing A and B are equal. So that is what we would print here. So let's go ahead and make both of these equal, and let's run what happens. So as you can see, these both conditions evaluate to false, so Python automatically prints A and B are equal, which is what we have assigned in our variables. Okay, now what if we want to write, if we're in like a time crunch and we want to quickly write an if statement without using too many lines of code quickly? Well, there's a shorthand way of writing an if statement in Python. And so this only works if you only have one statement to execute, and you can put it on the same line as the if statement. So for example, we can compress this. So let's go ahead and comment, or we'll keep the variables. We'll go ahead and comment this out, and we'll go ahead and print right here. We'll say if A is greater than B, we can write colon print, and we could write A is greater. Okay, so we'll go ahead and change this to. Alright, so as you can see here, we only have one condition to execute. So that's why we're writing an if statement shorthand. So this would still print A is greater than B. Rather than taking up 2 lines of code and making sure you have the indentation, we can just go ahead and write this entire if statement in one big line. Alright, now what if we want to write a shorthand else and if statement? Well, we can write this using one line as well. So let's go ahead and set to maybe A as a value of maybe like 1, and we'll go ahead and set this value as, sure, we'll leave it at 10. Alright, so now let's go ahead and use an if-else statement in one hand, so a shorthand if-else statement. So we'll go ahead and backspace all of this. Alright, so we'll write print, and then we'll write A, capital A, print A if A is greater than B. So what this is going to do is it's going to print the capital letter A if the value of A is greater than the value of the variable B. Else we want to print else we want to print capital B. Alright, so notice here there are no colons, no indentations, because we're using a shorthand way of writing the if-else statement. It's a quick one-liner and it doesn't take much room. So we can see here that we easily print B because we're checking this condition, it's false. So then we'll go ahead immediately to the else statement, and the else statement, if it evaluates to true, then we print B. Alright, this technique is called ternary operators or conditional expressions. Now, what if you want to have multiple else statements on the same line? So if statements, we can only have one shorthand if statement. But if we want multiple else statements, well, we can do this using a second else statement. So we can go ahead and we'll say print A if A is greater than B, and then we'll have else print equals equal sign if right here if A is equal to B, else print B. Alright, so what this means is that it's saying, okay, print A if they're equal, else we should print equal to if A is equal to B, else print B. So this is saying, technically, if we have A, the value of A greater than the value of B, then we're going ahead and printing the capital letter A. Or else we'll check if A is equal to B and we'll print the equal sign. Else, another else statement will say print B because we can't have another operator. So if it's not equal or if it's not greater, then that means that B has to be greater. So that's what this line of condition is testing for. Alright, so that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.